Yeah, thanks so much for being here, you everybody. This is step 6. So we're together once again. The first Saturday of the month, we get together every month. We fluoride-free activists from all over the world to share our experience, our strength, our wisdom, our inspiration, everything from tips and tricks and nice, techniques that you use to big, broad strategies, and just really also keep us sane and keep us going and keep us in the game and not quitting, because that's one of the biggest important steps that we'll get to later this year is don't quit. Today, we'll be focusing on strategizing, and I'll be introducing to you a very simple model for helping you and your team make decisions. So when you get together with your teams to strategize, the question, what are we going to do, is a very big question, and it is a very domineering question. And instead of asking and answering that question, I'd like to help teams succeed all over the world by practicing something called dynamic strategizing, which is just a really simple way of taking responsibility for the outcomes that you want to accomplish and the resources that are required to achieve such an outcome. And this model that I'll teach you is very simple. I mean, really simple, but it serves a great purpose, several purposes. One, indeed, to help your team come up with some really great outcomes to go after together and to coordinate with one another. But it also serves as a wonderful device to help involve new people and to have them quickly understand what you're up to and what you need and how they can plug in, so that volunteerism, donations can easily come to you based on what you're up to. So thanks again for being here. I'm just going to do a very quick review of where we've come so far this year, because we're already in June. And so we're in the 6th month of the year. We've covered, after today, we'll have covered half the book, half of the 12 steps in Something in the Water, 12 steps to ending fluoridation in your town. The very first step was important for any person coming to the fight against fluoride. You have to confront the deception. In one way or another, you will end up facing the scope and scale of the opposition that we have. This was put into the water as a deception. It continues by deception. And we, as activists, need to understand that and digest that and accept it and deal with it. But the chapter also helps to communicate it to others, because, as you know, as campaigners with experience, that it's very easy to go down the rabbit hole of discussing the motives for fluoridation, and that can take you away from accomplishing things. And so instead of asking, why do we have water fluoridation, the question rather is, now that you know it's harmful, what do you want to do about it? Now that you know it's unethical, what are you going to do about it? So as campaigners, we always need to be directing the conversation back to taking action. In the second step, we discuss protecting yourself. Everybody who's in this fight understands that it's a toxin and you don't want it in your body. So reducing your exposure is critical. But again, on the campaign trail, you distinguish yourself as an expert. When you're initially introducing this topic to people who don't really know that much about water fluoridation, but are understanding that it's not good for you, they're going to want to know as well how to protect themselves. And you'll be able to establish yourself as a ready expert simply by giving some practical advice or helping them determine for themselves what they can do as far as filtration and other things to reduce their exposure. And then it was in step 3 that we really got down to politics. Fluoridation began in politics, it's going to end in politics, and we all have to be political and embrace politics. The reason I wrote the book is because so many people they're amateurs at politics, as I once was, with my campaign consulting experience, as well as the many years working with you all and your experience fighting fluoride in many places around the world. I've determined these 12 steps. And the third step, mapping your jurisdiction, is really the first thing you need to do, is to research and find out, how is it that fluoridation came to be in your area? What is the legislation? What are the court rulings, perhaps? Basically, how does your water utility justify itself? By what authority does it claim to be able to medicate the population through the water supply? And once you understand that, where the water flows, where the fluoridated water reaches, and the basic map of your jurisdiction, that then empowers you to go ahead into the next step, step 4, which is to choose a pathway to victory. There, you consider some very broad paths. In our book, we talk about the pros and cons of each of the various avenues to win. One of them, of course, is direct lobbying. This is the most effective depending on who you're lobbying. But if you can get appointments with your elected officials and get them to be your allies and work with you to change the legislation, to change the law that authorizes fluoridation, it's really the most direct route. When that doesn't work, then you may have to consider going to the ballot. As far as the ballot's concerned, you have ballot measures where you can change the law through direct vote, or you yourself can run for office and use ending fluoridation as part of your platform. Of course, there are also the court systems, and you can sue locally, and you can attempt to exploit different avenues through the courts. And then finally, a whole mixed bag of things called direct action, which a lot of campaigns do, particularly in the beginning, to get themselves on the map, to get some attention, is to do rallies, concerts, letter writing campaigns, whole variety of things. Really just your creativity is the limit of the things that you can do to draw attention to your campaign and get people to join you. And then last month, we spent a good deal of time talking about mastering the message, because in the end, everything is a communication. In your campaign, everything is a communication. And so to be able to be very conscious of your messaging, and in that chapter, step 5, master the message, I introduce a very, very simple set of considerations for people to be very organized about the messaging, to be conscious of who your audience is and what message you need to deliver to that audience with a specific objective in mind, whether that's an elected official, the public in general, or other volunteers or potential donors. You have a different message depending on your audience and a different objective depending on what you're up to. Today brings us to turning passion into action. So today we're going to focus on the question of how do you turn passion into action? How do you take some very passionate and committed and eager volunteers and other activists in your area and turn all of that energy into a coordinated action? And so, as usual, I'm just going to give a quick summary of what the book teaches, and then we're going to get to hear from you all and give you all the opportunity to share examples of how you turn passion into action and what you learned along the way. And then I hope to map this model that I'm introduced to you called dynamic strategizing onto what you may already have been doing or what you plan to do. Again, to help first make it easier to make decisions. Second of all, to help everyone stay on the same page and coordinate better together. And finally, to engage and involve new people into your efforts by quickly bringing them up to speed with what you're doing and what you need, so they can tell right away where they can plug in best. So yes, turning passion to action is something I know every single one of you has experienced. Some maybe great conversations when it comes to deciding what to do, answering the question, okay, now what are we going to do? And then I bet you've also experienced some very non-productive conversations where people get around a table, for example, and start talking about what we want to do. And so many different angles get addressed, so many different ideas get thrown out. And it's kind of messy, and people start talking at cross purposes, and it can turn non-productive. So instead, what I'd like to offer everyone today is a very simple model that I've been using as a management consultant for years to help teams strategize. And one thing everybody wants is something very, very simple. So when it comes time to trying to figure out what are we going to do, I'd like to suggest that it's not static, for starters. That's why it's called dynamic strategizing, because of campaigning. Political campaigning in general is just a very dynamic environment, and things change, right? Things do change along the way, sometimes spontaneously, oftentimes because of the work you're doing. You could actually change the whole terrain, and you have to stay on your toes to keep strategizing. So really, it's just a matter of paying attention to 3 elements that are in perpetual relationship with one another, in a dance, if you will. If everyone adopts this simple language, then it makes it so much easier to make decisions and help, again, stay on the same page, stay coordinating very well, and introduce new people onto your campaign. So outcomes are really everything from the broadest outcome. Like, for example, if you've decided from step 4 that you're going to choose a pathway to victory to put a ballot measure in front of the voters, then you have an outcome to end fluoridation through the ballot. Now, that's going to require obviously a lot of things, but you can see specifically some assets you're going to need are, well, very directly, you're going to need votes. But also even before that, when it comes to qualifying the ballot measure to get on the ballot in the first place, you're going to need signatures. Now, as far as behaviors, you're going to need people to collect those signatures. You're going to need people to collect those signatures. And when you do succeed in getting it on the ballot, then you're going to need volunteers and others to help get out that vote, to convince people to vote in favor of your ballot measure. So this operates at the highest level of your campaign, but also the very smallest level. So if all you're going to do today is go to a farmer's market and set up a table and collect signatures, your outcome is to collect a certain number of signatures. The assets you have are a table, a sign-up list, perhaps a QR code, and some pens, some handout material. And the behaviors you're going to need are people to talk. You're going to need people who are willing to get out there and introduce themselves and shake hands and inform people and invite them to sign up with their email. So this is a tool you can use again and again and again, no matter what you're talking about. So I'll just give you another example of how this can really save a lot of trouble. So people have a lot of ideas about what you should do, right? The answer to the question always comes up, okay, what should we do? What should we do? And people say, well, we should, I've heard this many, many times in a lot of different organizing I've done in different areas of organizing as well. People are very keen on getting celebrities, for example. So someone will say, I know we need to get a celebrity. And because they're thinking, right, that a celebrity has a big audience, and if they come out against fluoridation, that's going to go a long way to helping end fluoridation. And sometimes they'll even name the very specific celebrity. They have somebody who lives in your town, perhaps, or in some way or other has something to do with environmentalism. So say, okay, we need to get so-and-so on board. And that's fine as an outcome. But you see, when your team is practiced in using dynamic strategizing, not only will they say, okay, we need to get a celebrity to come on board, which would be the outcome, they also at the very same time recognize, okay, well, what assets do we have, or what behaviors need to be deployed in order to achieve such a thing? It's easy to say, oh, let's get a celebrity on board. But the behavior in this case would be something like, well, someone's going to have to call somebody who's going to have to call somebody who's going to have to call somebody to get a hold of the celebrity. And then somebody's going to have to make the pitch to the celebrity. And it might take some assets in some regard. You may need some money. I don't know. You might have to take somebody to lunch. I don't know. You certainly need a telephone or an email just to be able to get a hold of somebody. So no matter what you're talking about, when the question comes up, what is there to do, rather than just answer the question, well, we need to do this or we need to do that, get folks trained in recognizing that every outcome that may be considered, and you shouldn't be limited in considering any number of outcomes. But as you consider those outcomes, at the very same time, you're cognizant of what assets will be required and what behaviors will be required in order to achieve such an outcome. And then at the same time, you can even start your strategizing from a static place of where do we start? Where are we today? So any great leader of any campaign will always have an absolute honest and accurate assessment of what assets you do currently possess and what behaviors you can currently count on. So if you have $100 in the bank account, that's an asset you have. If you have a dentist or a doctor on your team, you can consider that an asset as well. If you're actively calling people, or if you have volunteers who are actively going every week to a farmer's market or handing out flyers, going door to door, making appointments with elected officials, whatever behaviors are actually and honestly being exhibited at any particular time is something that you can attest to. And then you can ask yourself, given our assets and given our current level of behaviors and the participation that we have, the skill sets, and behaviors that we have, what outcomes could we achieve? So that's another way of coming at your outcomes, is just by starting with what assets and behaviors you currently have. So this is, again, a very simple and dynamic tool to keep you going. I know all of you are, hopefully, maybe you're using the concepts I'm introducing you to start to see that, yes, even everything you've already been doing and everything you plan to do, sooner or later is going to come down to understanding that there is some outcome involved. There's some assets required and some behaviors also required. And that if everybody's on the same page and everyone kind of understands at any particular time what the outcomes are and what assets we're trying to achieve in order to get that outcome, or what behaviors we're trying to introduce in order to achieve the outcomes, then everyone's at least understanding what's going on. Where can I plug in? And then also when you go to invite other people to join, you simply give them a summary. You can say, okay, we're collecting signatures. Our outcome is to collect, say 5,000 signatures to qualify our measure for the ballot. And we're going door to door. We have all the materials, we have all of the clipboards, we have all of the things. And a person can say, great, I can volunteer, or, I can't really volunteer, but I can give you $1,000. Will that help? Yeah, because actually we can then hire some people to get some professional signature gatherers. So when people understand these three elements and what relationship they are currently, it helps people participate fully. I'm just going to take a second to review the 4 questions here that keep this dynamism in play. So I've mentioned very often already the 2 top questions here on this slide. You can see, do behaviors expedite outcomes, and are assets sufficient for outcomes? I've been giving lots of examples of that, and I'll just point you to the other 2 questions, because you may also ask, do the assets accommodate our behaviors, and do behaviors accommodate our assets? Because a lot of times you're going to find campaigns can get stalled because you have enough volunteers to go, say, collect signatures, but you haven't got the clipboards, or you haven't got maybe even the ballot measure itself hasn't been written or finalized yet. So you need to introduce a new behavior, which is finalizing the ballot measure, or maybe even looking at signature gathering companies and finding out how much they're charging. Likewise, do behaviors accommodate your assets? So if you don't have sufficient assets, for example, you need more money, then one of the behaviors you might want to introduce is fundraising activities, where you're literally calling people and asking for money. This is all covered in the book, Something in the Water, 12 Steps to Ending Fluoridation in Your Town. And there's a lot of examples from real life campaigns, some of which you may be part of and some of which you've heard of. They've been going on around the world using these very concepts. So thanks for letting me describe this very important element in campaigning. So critical to be able to capture that energy and move it in a coordinated direction. And this step is dedicated, and today's conversation is dedicated to all the experience that you have and all the wisdom that you have to understand how to get that energy and that passion into coordinated action that has real, tangible outcomes for your campaign. All right, so let's begin this conversation. Thanks for being here. Cynthia's here, Regina's here. Looks like Mimsy's here, and Monique, Karen, Gilles, Colin. So much experience right here in this room. Who wants to start? Who wants to pick some activity? It could be something. Maybe you're doing an event. And just coordinated event has as an outcome, right? We're going to have an event on this day. Maybe you have some goals. Your outcome can definitely specify goals. How many attendees would you like to have, with how many speakers, for example? And you can have some fundraising goals even, perhaps. So it's okay very much okay to describe your outcome in detail in terms of numbers and tangible goals. So who wants to start?
Yeah, I got to tell you about my event. It's going to be tomorrow, and we're going to show Fluoride Poison on Tap at this theater. And the producer director, it's Paul Wittenberger. We flew him in. Well, he's going to come tomorrow, and then we'll do like a lunch event with him, and then we're going to church with him, and then we're going to go right over there. And then Griffin Cole, you guys all know Griffin Cole, right? I love him. He's a very good representative of what we're doing. He's going to do a Zoom, and he'll explain Tosca, what he believes about how we don't really need to swallow fluoride, you know, a few things, and tell who he is and that. And then we're going to start the movie. And then afterwards, we'll have a Q&A. And so my hope is that people that may not know about it, or the history, this is about the history of fluoride and how it got in the water and all that. You know, there's many documentaries and many things, but this one, the producer and director had come to Dallas in 2015 when they made this. So the council, there's some pictures of the council. And at that time, we did have support. We had 5, we needed 8. We were hoping 3 more would come on, and it didn't happen. And that's what I've noticed over the 10 years, because every 2 years, new people come on. They say they're with you. Right now, we have 2 committee heads. I was telling you this, Clint, 2 different committees. One is the Environment and Sustainability Committee, and one is Quality of Life and Environment Committee. And they both are on our side. They boldly say it. Boldly, like on stage, they will say it. But do you know what they said? He said, Adam, the Dallas water utilities stopped them. They will not let them, or don't want them to do an open public hearing with outside sources. They want to give their propaganda, you know, their story, and they don't want to have outside people in. And that's what I want. So he said, that's not what you want. That's not what I want. So from December, we've been fighting this, but I don't know. It's very frustrating. And sometimes I really don't know. Is it, I say I'm going to do it, so nobody else does? Is he like an infiltrator? I mean, I know I go to that sometimes thinking he's promising us to hold us off, but on stage when he was running, because he was up for re-election, I asked the 3 candidates, it was a nice crowd and everything, if you get in, will you help us fight fluoridation? The 2 candidates running against him, one was a pastor. He was a Black pastor, and he was saying, this hurts my people. And he had a really, I have it taped, I'll send it to you guys if you want it, really good answer. The female was like, yes, Regina, I know you. I've seen you fighting for this, but neither of them had a chance. Okay. He's in a district where he's been strong in other areas, and we figured he was going to win. But in front of that audience, he was up there and said, Regina, I have told you, I want this to happen. I'm trying to get the open public hearing, but the Dallas water utilities, and I was telling him, they're not your boss. But, you know, I couldn't talk anymore after I asked my question, but I've told him they're not his boss. He is their boss. But, you know, that's all like in paperwork. But when they're scared and they don't want to push it, plus the mayor is for fluoridation, he says, you know, I can't do this unless I have 8. Okay, we have a strong 5 again. We always keep having 5, you know. 2 new people are going to be coming in. The election is today, which I got to go over there and vote. Anyways, and I know I'm rambling, but my event for tomorrow is the opportunity came up because I have a friend who does weekly documentaries. Last year she did 13 of them. The whole auditorium, I mean, the theater holds 420 people. She has filled it up before. She's got a mailing list of 800, plus she has sponsors. I don't know if you guys know who Eagle Forum is. It's a pretty large, do you know what anyways, what she does is she has sponsors of other groups that are conservative groups, or whatever you want to call it, information groups. And the way for them to be a sponsor is they have to promise to send out for every documentary, you know. So it's going out to more than 1,000 people. So who knows who shows up, but whoever does show up, we can at least show them where we are, you know, what we're doing, maybe recruit some more people. It's a recruitment thing, and also showing people how bad it is and where it comes from. People all need to know that to avoid it, right? Since the city isn't. And so getting back to, so my city, Dallas, is Dallas, whoever doesn't know me, and very frustrating, but Griffin Cole, you know, he's wonderful. Right now he is doing a nationwide, do you know this, Clint, of interviews? You know it, I see you're shaking your head.
I've seen one, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've seen one? Well, I think he's doing 26 cities or whatever, and you use them. I mean, these are really good. He's Randall has 1-minute videos of these interviews, and then the 2- and 3-minute. We already showed one at City Council. And I think it was very effective, because we fit it right into our 3 minutes. So with him coming, I'm just saying, it's another thing. Clint knows me, Karen knows me. I guess some of you people know me. I've been around a long time, tried a lot of different things, and still trying. So that's my middle name, Passion, right?
Well,
got
passion into action. That's what's so instructive about, everything you do in Dallas. It's that, yes, the passion is clearly there, but the action and the results.
Yeah.
So if you don't mind, I'd like to take as an example this event you're doing.
Okay.
We did a big event in San Francisco too. We actually had Dr. Conant here and a holistic dentist from the East Bay come and speak. And we even closed down the streets and did a parade as well beforehand.
Nice.
A few years back, but yeah, there's something about doing an event, an informative event that can capture a lot of attention, can bring a lot of people together, the outcome of which is recruitment, right?
Right.
So let's this is again a great example of how if everyone on your team is clear about the outcome, which is to hold an event of a certain size with 2 speakers, one from out of town, and one via Zoom. And like, for example, how many people would you like to have attend?
Well, say that one more time. What?
How many people would you like to have attend?
Well, I think I said it was 420. The theater is 240. So I would say if we have even 100 people, I will feel like it's going to look full enough. And I think it could be good. But the more the merrier. I'm doing one
Always
of
the more the merrier. Standing room
I want
only,
it
right?
full. I want it full. I want it full. Okay.
Exactly. So the outcome is to have between 100 and 240 people
Yes.
attend an event and recruit how many people, how many emails would you like to collect? That's how you count. That's how you measure recruitment, is through contact information voluntarily given to you.
Okay, we have the clipboards. I heard you saying that. We have the fresh pens, got 74 pens, so we got those, and we're going to be getting emails on the way in. So we have, oh gosh, 20 people helping to do this. I mean, we've got them at the door saying hello, and so we have the opportunity of having people with clipboards and getting their emails and stuff. So
very good. So you can see the behavior of folks collecting, welcoming folks and collecting emails. And even it took some even beforehand. So that's the day of. So if we even back up, right? You've been working on this for a while.
2
What
weeks.
efforts did it take just to fly your speaker in, for example?
Exactly. 2 weeks ago, I was offered this opportunity, and right away, I $700 and almost $800 for the airplane ticket. But one of the people said, I have miles I'll never use. So they donated their miles. So that was covered. And then looking for a hotel, and I got a hotel exactly across the street from the theater so that he can stay in the hotel as long as he wants while we're setting up and everything, and just walk over, literally walk across the street. So that's 115. That's nothing. It was really a good deal, I think. And listen to this. He wanted to get home early, so he didn't mind the crazy time, but he's going to be leaving 5 o'clock in the morning on Monday. So we pick him up at 9:30 on Sunday morning. Okay. By the time we get over to the church, where I figure this church is full of patriots and stuff, some of those might want to come then too. We're going to go get lunch and try to, convince some people that don't know about fluoride to come, or maybe some people I haven't seen in a long time or whatever. And then we'll go over to the hotel, drop them off at the hotel. But and then he can walk across the street to the thing. But what kind of preparation work? Okay, so it was calling Griffin, because I wanted Griffin to really come, but he's busy. The only day he said maybe video. Okay, so now that was a thing. I do a lot of video things, but I never set up a meeting, so I had to kind of be like, that's different. Okay, so yesterday we worked on that, and we had to do a trial run, but we haven't done it at the theater. And it's talking to the theater. Can we put up a banner? Like someone made us a 30-foot banner to hang over on a bridge that says, Highland Park doesn't fluoridate their water, Why not in red, you know? And so we didn't have time to hang it over. And it wasn't talking about the event, but we're still going to do that, you know? And so we have bumper stickers to give out. Someone printed bumper stickers, $66. I got a real deal, and magnetic. And so we'll hand those out for free or a donation, whatever. So it was those kind of things. But because I've been doing this a long time, I still had some flyers, informational flyers from a different event, you know, that I hang on to, and like that has all the things of what you can do. Send an email or try to make it, like you said, that's what it's all about. Try to set up with your city council person. The problem is I have been blocked. They won't meet with me. This one guy was there 8 years, guys, and he never would give me 5 minutes. Okay. He's just termed out. He gave me a 30-minute one like a week ago. Okay. So I literally said to him, he's a big black guy. And I go, your district is almost predominantly Black and Hispanic, right? I mean, am I wrong about that? And he said, no, you're right. I said, have you even looked at my material that I'm sending to you? He goes, oh yeah, I read it all. I said, well, did you not believe me? I said, did you need to hear it from someone else? Because, you know, disproportionately, your community is being hurt by this. I said, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, I don't make any money on this. It costs me money, but it kills me that every day people are getting harmed by this and they don't know about it. So he said, by the end, he said, I admire your passion, and he is going to do one thing. He is going to talk to the chairman of the Quality of Life before he leaves, because he's on the Quality of Life committee of the guy who says he wants to have a meeting. Okay. He's going to go to him and say, I could have benefited from this meeting. Push it, tell the water department, because I feel like I was cheated, in other words. And he's only in there 16 more days, but I said, you can do something. So anyways, he resisted meeting with me. He says he's looking at the stuff, but I don't know how he could have and not been changed. But go ahead. I'm talking too much.
No, I'm loving it. You know, you're probably one of the best, most experienced advocates focusing on direct lobbying. You know, you've made the Dallas City Council, you know, you've made it your own, and your responsibility to reach every single one of them as they come in and out of office over years, to find any allies to take up any. I love the way you do it. You make the big request. If they don't want to do that, you make a smaller request. You just get them to do something, and listen to their concerns, right? And tell them, keep giving them the information. I'm sure you've learned too that one thing that gets their attention is if you can somehow help them get reelected. Right. And it's also great that you're engaging the candidates even before they're in office to find out where they stand on it. That is direct lobbying par excellence. You know, that is, I would like to have actually just a whole dedicated hour with you on Zoom one time, just to really help.
I'll do anything
others.
you want.
Yeah,
because if you even see this 2-minute thing, a candidate running for office, standing up there and saying fluoride is bad, we need to stop this. He sounded like a commercial. He got a couple things wrong. He says, you know, babies need to have distilled water. I don't know. But he got the concept of it, and he was not backing down. He was real strong, and everyone clapped for him. So that's real important. The people in the audience, I see Karen shake, they weren't getting resistance. They weren't like, oh, you're crazy. No, all the people and the other candidates, the 2 other candidates, were just as strong. So I don't know why he's not doing it. And I know Karen shook her head before, because that somebody.
I nodded my head.
Okay. Oh no, I saw you, honey. So yeah, hi. But somebody, anybody, or whatever that saying is, where he's putting it up saying he's going to do it, so that this other environment and sustainability, she's real with us too. But she says, no, Adam is doing it. He's working on doing it. And that's the only thing I'm like, is he really a real bad guy? And he's holding her from doing it, you know? So, okay, I'll be quiet. I know how to be quiet, but I'm just all fired. I'm fired up. Okay.
Yeah, we're going to direct lobbying 101 with Regina. It's coming.
You and me both, Regina. I think there are a lot of people who will clap and say, yeah, fluoride's bad, we should get it out and everything. But they don't fully appreciate how bad it is, and they don't feel the sense of urgency. You know, I know Giles knows this and Brenda knows this. People's lives are being changed, ruined, and prematurely shortened because of fluoride. And they just can't quite get that it's bad, yeah, but I don't think it's that bad. You know, the head of the DPW at my old city says, well, yeah, it's not, I don't think it's good for you, but I have a little filter in my house that I'm using. So, but I'm not gonna argue with the mayor. It's very unpleasant to be on the wrong side of the mayor. So he thinks it's bad. He's taking measures that he thinks is protecting his family from it, but they aren't. And he's just gonna let everybody else be poisoned because, yeah, it's probably not that bad. And he doesn't want to get in trouble. So it's really, I think, you know, the pause is nice, but we need to get people to really invest and feel a sense of urgency that their lives are being damaged, ruined, and shortened because of this.
Sure.
Well, yeah, you know, if like the people here today, you know, we can assume we all get it like that, and that's what motivates us. A politician's not motivated by the same things as your story tells. So when it comes to direct lobbying, the general wisdom is that you need to prove to them that you can help them get elected or reelected. That's really what matters. So the event you're having, Regina, you know, all the recruitment you're doing can help you develop a large enough following so that when you walk into the office of an elected official, you can say, look, I represent so many thousand or tens of thousands of people in Dallas, and they are very serious about supporting candidates who want to end fluoridation. And, you know, so you can either have us on your side and volunteering for you on your campaign when it comes around, or you can have us volunteering and giving donations to your opponent. That usually gets their attention. So while you're doing this direct lobbying, this is what I want to say about general campaigning is while you're doing direct lobbying, which is again the most cost-effective campaign, is when because it doesn't really cost anything to make an appointment with an elected official and go in and talk with them. And you can bring them information, and you might have them see the sheer importance of stopping this poison from being put into the water. But of course, then you come fully into the confront their political motivations. That's when it's important that you be able to, if you can, say, I have this large number of people behind me.
There's 15 districts, and that's the tricky thing too, because you can have a lot of people, they want them in their district, you know.
Thanks, Regina.
I just did a quick check of Dallas's City Council's website. On their water area, utilities, they've got a thing called financial assistance for water bills.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think you know where I'm going here, Clint.
Go, Colin, go.
don't pay your water bills for fluoridated water. But I've actually got a few towns here in Australia. But the thing is, you put in a complaint. Like Dallas, you could say, well, I'm hypersensitive to fluoride. I got to pay for a water filter. So I'm struggling to pay my water bill because I've got to pay for water filtration. It's quite simple. You don't try and contact these people, you put in a complaint. Most city councils, water departments have to answer complaints. It's a fact. They answer complaint and resolve the complaint.
Yes.
We sent 20 questions to the Bunbury City Council. No, it's not City Council, it's the Water Department. And they never answered them, although complaints and questions. But half the questions were, why should I pay the water bill when you're violating this law, that law, this informed
sense.
consent. And they never answered them. 20 questions. So if they don't answer why we should pay, then aren't they telling us, well, you don't have to pay because we can't give you a good excuse to pay.
Absolutely.
But
So
anyway,
I just want to underscore that what Colin's talking about, from step 4, choose a pathway to victory. One of the broad pathways is direct action. So, Regina's describing direct lobbying, which is when you go directly lobbying your elected officials. Direct action is when you've kind of given up on your elected officials, or you could do it in conjunction with direct lobbying. But direct action is any number of actions you get people to jump on board with. And not paying your water bill is one of the coolest direct actions I have heard of. I mean, the logic of it is so compelling. And who wouldn't want to not pay their water bill? But
I'm $2,000 up so far from
wow,
February
wow.
2002.
So if you don't mind, I'd like to use your direct action campaign, generally speaking, to encourage people to not pay their water bill, to protest their water bill, to write in and complain, and then ultimately withhold payment, as a direct action campaign, and break it down into these 3 elements and just see where you are. Would you mind? Would you mind, Colin, using,
Right.
can we use your situation, your campaign as an example?
Yes, certainly, yeah. But I've also gained allies here in Australia. There's a new community group or group of groups called My Place. Anyway, there's 140 of them in Australia, and some are stronger than others. And we've got one in Queensland, over 1,000 Facebook followers. They've also written to their council and gave them 28 days to answer complaints and questions, and they too haven't answered them. And it's about, they're threatening not to pay their water bill. Anyway, go ahead.
I'm putting a
Fantastic.
link.
That's yeah, good. That's so your reach is throughout the country, is what you're saying.
Yes, all these 140 groups talk to each other every 2 weeks to tell them how they're going, what they're doing. Some have got strengths in different areas.
Mm-hmm.
And so hopefully, if one area has success, they can duplicate that in all the other areas. And I have heard that they've had inquiries from United States to start up a similar My Place community system of groups.
Okay, good. Well, let's start with outcomes. So the activity is a direct action campaign to end water fluoridation by having a sufficient number of people refusing to pay their water bill. So in terms of outcomes, that's the outcome. And it doesn't hurt to add some numbers, even if you have to estimate. So let's just have some fun estimating how many people, or maybe by a percentage, what percentage of ratepayers would have to stop paying in order to either get their attention, force them to account for the safety and or lack of safety and lack of effectiveness of water fluoridation, or to outright ban it. What would you say is just some, based on your experience?
I've done the figures on that, but when you make a complaint, you also have to tell them what the resolution is.
Yes.
And of course, as you noted, it's a political problem. So the resolution is to get the politicians to stop, to stop it. The politicians have to stop it.
Yeah, the politicians or the
control.
voters, but yeah, the politicians definitely have the authority to change the legislation and to stop fluoridation. And how you doing it is through direct action. maybe some direct lobbying combined, but the direct action campaign is specifically to encourage people to complain about the fluoride and threaten to not pay their bill, and then ultimately not pay their bill. So what percentage of ratepayers do you think would be a good low threshold, the lowest threshold that you would set as like a goal in order just minimally to get their attention and say, we're serious?
Well, see, I've done the figures here in Australia. We got benchmarking systems where they actually tell you how much profit they make, each
Mhm.
water supplier, how many customers they got. So, for example, over in West Australia, Bunbury, they have about 18,000 customers. They pay around $1,000 per year, and they made a profit of $2 or $3 million a year. So by that, you'd only need 2,000 or 3,000 customers to stop paying a water bill, and the complete profit is wiped out.
Very good, very good. So I would suggest, if you're not already doing it, that when you are talking to people and encouraging them to join your campaign, that you name the outcome just like that. We're here to stop fluoridation by eliminating the profit of the utilities by having sufficient numbers. In you can do it as a percentage, or like you've done the numbers, 2,000 to 3,000 people to stop paying their water bill. That's the outcome. But as soon as you say that, then you say, okay, what assets do you have that would be sufficient or need to be sufficient to achieve that outcome? And likewise, what behaviors are expediting this outcome? So what assets? Let's talk about the assets. Those are hard material assets that are required. What it doesn't seem like it's a very expensive campaign. It doesn't seem like you need a lot of assets, but just what are the few things that you need?
Well, again, over at Bunbury, the main asset we got is the local people. They have their own Fluoride-Free Bunbury group, which are on Facebook, and I also meet. There's about 300 people at least in this group, and they also have friends and family. So that's just one of the assets, is that group, I guess.
Absolutely. A website, a Facebook page. These are some basic assets that any campaign should have. But given the nature of your campaign, there's not a lot of money needed. There's not a lot of expense. Perhaps if you wanted to do an information campaign or an advertisement, then as part of as an outcome on the way to the larger outcome, then you might have to look at some fundraising in order to pay for that. But in the meantime,
well, I just gave you the fundraising. You save $1,000 a year. You pay for your water filter, using half of it, and then the other half you donate it to Fluoride-Free Dallas or whatever town you're in.
Very good, very good. So there's the behaviors, is right, inviting people to take up this cause and to first complain, to put the utility on notice, and then when they don't respond, then to just not pay. And I would imagine one asset you could have would be some sort of template, or even just a step-by-step guide, a simple one-pager to walk people through what they need to say and do in order to stay legitimate, to make that their complaint is legitimate, and to give them cover if, for example, the utility threatens to turn off their water because they're not paying or something like that.
Well, here in Australia, they can't turn your water off because water is an essential service.
Very good. So one pager would include that fact and some support for it, so that anybody who's considering your campaign that would assuage their fear. So yeah, you can see how the assets and behaviors and outcomes in your campaign would be particularly interesting when you're going out to try to get people to take on this action, this direct action, and to join thousands of others. So they get a picture of how many thousands, how many people need to be doing this. And then one of the behaviors is ask your friends, ask your neighbors, to do the same, to join you. So every person, not only are they protesting their water bill, but they're telling 2 or 3 or 4 people that they know to do the same. And that's how you can grow to get to 2,000 to 3,000. The question is are your assets sufficient for your outcomes, and are your behaviors expediting these outcomes? So perfect example.
The other thing would be, usually people should be consulted with this stuff. But if you did a poll, how many people would be dead set against fluoridation? It ranged, but probably around 30%. 30% are against fluoridation, 30% are for fluoridation, and the rest of the people couldn't care less. But if you got 30% of the people not paying their water bill, the water supplier would be in panic mode.
Exactly.
That's just not wiping out their profit. That's not wiping out their operational capabilities.
Sure, you can dream of 30% of people not paying, but again, the outcome doesn't need to be, as you said, the numbers need to be a full 30%. I don't think.
No.
Yeah. So yeah, communicate your outcomes, your assets, and behaviors all at once, and show how they are in connection to each other, and that will automatically, the effect of that on the listener is that they will automatically hear where you are, immediately get the picture of where your campaign is. And then because they want to make a difference, they will easily see how they can participate. And again, with your campaign, it's very easy to understand how anyone can participate. If that is just don't pay your water bill, but also tell 2 other people or 10 other people not to pay their water bill.
And I also say it's a medical mandate. So that brings home to people, especially in the last few years, that medical mandates that aren't safe and effective should be opposed.
Very good. You're reminding me of last month's teleconference when we were on step 5, mastering the message. So depending on your audience, you craft a message specifically to achieve an objective with them. And for you, your audience is a general water bill ratepayer who's currently paying their water bill. And you can say things like that this is a medical mandate, that they're forcing you to take a medicament through your water, and you can complain by not paying your water bill. That's your message. And the objective of which is to get them to join your campaign and stop paying their water bill. Perfect. I just think it's the greatest.
Well, for 70 years, people have been trying all sorts of different things. And to me, this is too easy.
It's very grassroots. It's very scrappy. It doesn't take a lot to get on board. You don't need a lot of education. You don't need any experience in politics, really. But a person like you, Colin, I really suggest, beginning to use the dynamic strategizing on a regular basis and really inculcate it in your conversations and get it part of the norms within your movement. And I suggest you'll see big numbers increasing because
it's start the snowball rolling down the hill.
Yes, that's a good way to put it. It's a snowball effect when you use dynamic strategizing. Okay, so let's hear from someone else about a campaign you're doing, and let's focus again on how do you convert passion and energy. People, yes, they want to end fluoridation. Everyone on your team agrees to that. The problem is that people disagree about how best to do that because they have different ideas about the status of the situation, different estimations of the political terrain in which you're dealing, but they also have different ideas about what will be effective. And in the end, those kinds of debates can be counterproductive. What's more productive is if your teams are encouraged to create any number of outcomes to suggest and promote or put forth the idea of any number of outcomes, but at the exact same time be responsible for your suggestion, proposal of an outcome by making sure that you are at the same time addressing the assets and behaviors required to achieve such an outcome. And when you have everybody talking that kind of language, then everyone is being responsible for their speaking. Everyone is being responsible for the fact that we are a team and that we do need to coordinate, and that we as a team will have to come up with assets. We ourselves are going to have to demonstrate certain behaviors if we are to achieve any outcome. So it just keeps us honest, keeps us coordinated. And again, it makes it really easy to describe to somebody who's new to your campaign where you are and how they can plug in most effectively. Does anybody have some activities that they're doing on their campaign that they'd like to use an example to learn about dynamic strategizing today? I know, Isabel, you might be just getting started. I haven't talked with you. I'd love to hear. Isabel and I met. I was doing a presentation about ending fluoridation in the East Bay, in San Francisco, East Bay of San Francisco Bay. And Isabel was the one who stood up and she said, I want to start a campaign here in the East Bay. So I just curious to hear where you've been since we talked.
Okay. Well, I haven't done anything specific since then because I was, for various reasons, and I was looking forward to this Zoom meeting to see what's going on.
Sure.
And I've been, I think as I told you, I've been concerned about this forever, for like decades, and actually contributed some money, probably 30 years ago. I can't remember how long ago, but and sort of been following it lately in the United States with some of the stuff that's been going on nationally about it. But after listening to you guys so far, I feel like the first thing I need to do is find other people in my community that want to work on this, because obviously I don't want to do it by myself, and I'm not as much of a self-starter by myself, so to speak. So, but I'm, involved with various communities around here, and I sort of feel enthusiastic that if I just put it out there saying, hey, who among you would like to work on this issue with me? Because I'm sure lots of people feel the same way in those groups, and see what kind of response I get, and then have a meeting and, start maybe, getting some of the resources you guys use and talking to people about it, and just see where we can go from there. So that's just
exactly perfect. That's where we all start, right? That's where we all have started. That's right. So if you don't mind, once again, you guys looking at this image here, the reason I bring it to you and I emphasize it so much is because it is so simple and so basic, and it really will help at every level, from when you're just getting started to when you've been doing it for years, to understand what are your outcomes, assets, and behaviors at any particular moment in time. So the outcome I heard for your campaign, as it's mostly an idea right now, but it's still a campaign. That is an initial outcome to have an organizing meeting of people who would like to join in a campaign, like a leadership group.
right.
It's a beautiful outcome to start with. And for the reasons that you gave, none of us want to do it alone. None of us should do it alone, for many reasons. To motivate ourselves, because the variety of the skill sets you'll need from, a variety of people have variety of skill sets, a lot of different resources that they can bring, skill sets, just a lot of, you want a team, obviously. So the outcome is to have this organizing meeting. Again, when it comes to outcomes, it doesn't hurt to be specific. So say how many people you'd like to have, when would you like to have it, even maybe where you, at this point, maybe where isn't as important, but again, when you're creating your outcomes, be specific and be concrete as much as you can. So maybe name a place and time and a certain number of people that you would like to have there. And then the behaviors, I heard you say, you've been asking people, or the thing to do would be to ask people who are in any number of organizations that you are currently in and other places where you go, people who are active politically or somehow have a sense of wanting to make a difference in your community, and inviting them to come to your organizing meeting. And as far as assets are concerned, right now, except for maybe the place where you meet, you'll need a place to meet, right?
Yeah, that actually is not a problem.
Right, that's a very low threshold. So, but it is an asset, something to
Right.
keep in mind. But otherwise, looks like you're on your way.
Yeah, it's great to hear what other people are doing. I wonder if I could ask kind of a very broad question that springs to mind as I'm watching this, and not expecting a definitive answer.
Well, yeah, let's hear it, and we'll see where we can take it. If it's consistent with our topic today, or just in general, maybe if people can support you in achieving this organizational meeting, your first outcome, I'm sure people would love to do that.
Great. Well, I guess it's a two-part question. The first one is, I really don't understand why people haven't been getting this issue and what's going on for all these, say, decades that FAM's been operating. Like what is it that people don't get? Because it's so, to me, and always has been so obviously bad. And yet, people have been working at this for a long time, and at least in the area where I live, hasn't been any, in the East Bay, there hasn't been, at least I haven't been aware of so much activity around this issue. So then that leads me to the question, what do you think is the single biggest roadblock to people getting passionate about this interest?
Well, it's not always the lack of passion. No, the thing that's missing, and the reason I wrote a book called Something in the Water, 12 Steps to Ending Fluoridation in Your Town, the thing that's missing are people who are on board, committed, declared to be the leader in their community to take up this issue and make it happen. There's so many other issues people are distracted from. I picked fluoride. Yeah. Back in 2012, I said to myself, Clint, there's so many issues you get involved with and you're just all over the place. Pick one and go deep with it. And I said, you can take your time figuring out what that's going to be. I looked at sound money. I looked at election integrity. I was really looking at things that I thought were very fundamental, and that were kind of bedrock things that could make a big difference. And our water, fluoridation became the one to choose for me. And in the book, I describe how I selected the end of fluoridation as my life's mission. And it had a lot to do with a lot of things. But in the end, it all comes down to a declaration. You just choose. You say, that's going to be my thing. I'm going to do it. And I'm going to be the one to do it. It's on me. I could do any number of other topics. This is the one I'm going to do. So then the question becomes, do I have what it takes? And gumption goes a long way. Enthusiasm goes a long way in the beginning. But so many of us have learned the hard way. And very fortunately, I've spent time with worldwide activists over, as you know, 4 years at least, and then some, discussing the various strategies and behaviors and tactics and answering the big questions like, why aren't we winning? What's so hard about this? All the big questions. And I distilled them all in a book called Something in the Water, 12 Steps to Ending Water Fluoridation. So I would invite you to read that book cover to cover, equip yourself in this manner, surround yourself with people like this on a monthly basis so that you can join in and get specific advice about a specific campaign. But in the end, yeah, what's missing, the direct action, you might get different answers from people here today, but my answer is it's just the absence of leadership. And the fact that you're here today is a testament that, you know, the East Bay is on its way to ending water fluoridation where it wasn't before.
Thanks. That's great.
Absolutely. That's really it. You are in a very austere group of people, I have to tell you. Let's see, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100 years of campaigning expertise here on this call. So welcome, Isabel. Everyone welcome Isabel. Open your mic and, you know, give her just 1 or 2 words of encouragement, knowing where she is. Go ahead.
Thank you for doing
Welcome.
what you're doing.
Thanks. It's great hearing. Well, for me, I'm impressed that there's people from so many different places, and hearing your commitments is really great.
Yes, yes. We love you. We need you. We recognize ourselves in you. We kind of know. We know. We're just like we know each other. It's very when we all have the same commitment. We're all tenacious, all of us, and we are all educated. And like I didn't know, as I wrote in the book, I didn't know that I would turn out to be this activist. I didn't know that I was going to, you know, become a campaign consultant and run electoral campaigns in order just to learn about politics. I didn't know that I would be called a dissident and all these things. All I knew is that I was going to end fluoridation and whatever that takes. And so the journey has been very interesting. And like Brenda, for example, she's gone to study water treatment. Like I have another friend who went to school to become a PhD in biological statistics, because that's where all the science around fluoridation is, in biological statistics. Turns out it's a great career to have as well, pays well. But you know, a lot of people's life decisions have been made inside of their commitment to end fluoridation. So who knows where it will take you. All right, so we're doing dynamic strategizing today because I'm really committed that everyone be successful in your coordination with teams, such that everyone's on the same page. Everyone's clear about what is the outcome we're all after. What are the assets we have or need to have in order to achieve this outcome? What behaviors, what actions do we need to engage? What are we currently engaging in, and what do we need to do more of in order to achieve our objective? And everyone's playing the same game, and everyone's on the same team with the same ideas and the same understanding of what's going on. So if anyone has an example of some action, any kind of activity that you've been up to, so we can use it as an example to learn from. Anybody? Brenda.
Hey everyone, I'm one of the plaintiffs in the federal TSCA lawsuit against the EPA over the neurotoxicity of fluoride, if anyone didn't know that. So something that I've been doing right now is I just finished a social media marketing program through a technical college, and I did it all online because it was super cheap. Anyway, I've been learning about like creating stuff with AI, and I think it's really important that we share our messages on social media, especially because that's where people are getting their information these days instead of local newspapers or the television, and we all know so much. So I've been using ChatGPT to create different tweets. So I'll look up like what day is like a hashtag day. So the other day it was World Environmental Day. So it was hashtag World Environmental Day. So I went to ChatGPT and I put in, if you look in your messages right now, the link is there for the website if you want to go there and play. And I put in, write me 10 tweets for World Environmental Day regarding fluoride in drinking water and how it is harmful to the thyroid and developing brain. and it will generate 10 tweets for me. So then I go to Twitter and I will schedule those tweets throughout that day at different times. And when you do Twitter, for example, you can post 50 times per day. And that is like, that's very common. But if you go to like LinkedIn, you could just post like twice a week, because most people on LinkedIn are called lurkers. They don't actually post to the LinkedIn. They're just there to read the content. So if you post there, you get a pretty high visibility. Declan posts there all the time, great stuff about new studies, if you guys follow him. Facebook, you only have to post a couple times a week as well. You don't have to post 50 times a day like Twitter. I don't do TikTok. I do Instagram. So if you're you don't really know what to write, ChatGPT is a great source, and it's been really helpful to me for coming up with content.
I love it. What a great suggestion, everyone. Yeah, there's this great tool, so use it. And social media obviously is where people are getting their news. That's what you said, right? That's the big deal. So that's something that is an asset, I think, as far as as far as dynamic strategizing, there isn't a specific outcome for like a campaign for an outcome, but what you're suggesting is that there's an asset that and your behaviors, that is, what do? You described just now the tool and what you need to do to use the tool best. And then any campaign can use that same asset and those same behaviors toward any number of outcomes. I'd say, well, I mean, where wouldn't that help? So yeah, thank you, Brenda. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And yeah, it was just last month when the topic was mastering the message. And so, the wisdom that we spoke of last month was that when you have any message in any media, social media, or just face-to-face conversation, or a letter, an email, whatever the medium is, you are very aware of who your audience is, and you compose your messages in order to achieve a specific objective with that audience. And when I say objective, I specifically mean that you have an idea of how you want them to think differently, feel differently, and or behave differently when you go to make your message. So perhaps the prompt for AI, I don't know, I'd love to see what you've come up with and how it works, but the use of the AI tools is improved based on how you prompt it. So perhaps prompting it with also maybe adding in an objective. So with the objective to have the audience, support my campaign, or to write a letter to the editor, or call their, some specific outcome. Maybe the AI then will make the tweet even more effective, in the sense that it gives the audience, it helps you achieve a specific objective with your audience.
I have used the ChatGPT to write letters to the editor, and I believe Michael may have tried or used it to make a press release to see how good it is, and it's pretty decent. So I did that in the last couple of weeks. I got a letter to the editor published because one of my local municipalities had an overfeed. They had to drain the water tower and stuff. And I think it was 13 milligrams per liter of fluoride that was in the water. So I grasped on that, and I wrote a letter to the editor, and I got the Wisconsin Dental Association then writing letters to the editor in response to my letter. I got Johnny Johnson in the comments, so that's like
Could
another
you post
battle.
that, please? Sorry.
Yeah.
Post that in the chat as well, please.
I'll share it. And then,
yeah.
Okay. And then in the last few days, I think it was yesterday or the day before, I made a little video based on the CDC's new study on the fluoride levels in drinking water and how most utilities have the safe level. And so I just did an 8-minute video on that just to build some content. I posted that earlier, but I'll post it again just so you can see it. if anyone's interested. It's like 8 minutes. Ideally, you want to make like a 90-second little video and like a 1.5-minute video, like some short, but I just wanted to get it out there and I didn't really want to edit too much. So I could take clips from it and snips to turn it into TikTok videos or something else on social media.
Fantastic.
Those are the two big things that, I kind of did in the last couple weeks.
You're the best, Brenda. I every time I talk to you, I want to talk with you more and more. I just, you're so creative and you produce so much for us. And we always need more content. So actually, a content library is something that I've been hoping to create. It's not a small matter because it's a lot of space. It starts taking up a lot of space, but to have people be able to, reuse. I mean, obviously that's what Twitter and Facebook are for. You shouldn't have to have a repository or a library. I mean, you just, repost or reshare what's already been created. However, you just have so much. So maybe even, I don't know, I would like to brainstorm with you because I want to see people I want to augment what you're doing, to magnify what you're doing. Obviously, the social media is designed to augment and magnify. I don't know how much you've run into shadow banning or just suppression in general, if you know what I mean, because the algorithms are shadowy and we don't know. But I'm going to post in the chat last month's teleconference because it's come up a number of times already today, and it makes sense that it should, because communication is essential to any campaign, and to be very good about knowing your objective, who your audience is, and what message will achieve that objective is just a very super simple elemental conceptual model that helps magnify everyone's effectiveness when it comes to communicating. And you are a communicator par excellence. Brenda, thank you so much.
So your link to last time's video, I think, is in the email that you sent out. And I also believe that we can all download this chat at the end of our Zoom, so you guys have a record of all the links.
Oh,
Absolutely. You can at any point in time, you can go down to where the chat is, and right next to the field where you type or below where you type, there's 3 dots, an ellipse, and you click on that, gives you more options. One of them is save chat, and that'll allow you to save this chat to your computer. Thanks so much, Brenda. Let's see how much. We've got about 5 more minutes. So maybe at this point, if anybody just wants to say hi, how you doing? How you feeling? Gilles, you want to shout out? You guys doing good up there?
Yes, but just to tell that when you have a commitment to end fluoridation, it works, because in Quebec, we just have 3 municipalities left with fluoridation, while though there was over 60 at the beginning. So we have work, and we had even had a law that make fluoridation compulsory. So and the government pays everything for fluoridation. That's the only state in North America, I could say, where the government pays everything for fluoridation, and we still win everywhere. So, but it took 53 years. It's a long commitment.
Yeah, and the last 3 are the hardest to go, but that's, I love it. You're not stopping till Quebec is fluoride-free, right?
Almost. There's 3 municipalities left, less than 1% of the population still fluoridated, and we're getting to a court action, injunction against the city of Montreal to end fluoridation in Pointe-Claire and Dorval, because Montreal is responsible for fluoridation in those 2 municipalities. So fight, it worth it.
Keep fighting, it's worth it. Absolutely. Chandros?
Hello, Chando's here. I'm a 10-year veteran of trying to get fluoride to end fluoride in East Brunswick, New Jersey.
Okay.
And we have a mayor who has decided that we should continue with fluoridation. Even after we had, I guess a couple of years ago, we had even Paul Connor to speak at the council meeting. And of course, we were only given 5 minutes to speak at that time. And all of that information from Connor, who's been globally trying to get people to desist from this fluoridation. The mayor said we should, at the end of it, he said we should continue. Now the mayor he's well, he's a politician. Also, he's an MD as well, and I think pediatrician or gynecologist. I'm not sure. But anyway, he's doing some marvelous things for the community, redevelopment, and all that sort of thing. But nevertheless, he is a functionary of the ADA, I guess. You know, they're pushing it like crazy. And so I haven't gotten anywhere. So my visit to this free campaign for fluoride is I'm in a listening mood because in a learning mood to see what people are doing. And that's why I'm participating. I certainly appreciate and have made some notes about some of the comments and issues that have been projected for their communities. And so I'm going to do some of that, I guess, again. We had a group a while ago that was, you know, that's why we brought this to the council in the first place. But, you know, it's kind of died down now, and people are getting old in the group and have health issues and like that. So I'm going to start doing some other things, and maybe getting people to write things. And I wrote too. You know, I published in the local organ, but it didn't have much effect so far. So I'm going to continue the fight one way or another. So
I appreciate that very much.
Yeah.
That's what there is to do. We're all discovering what's going to work. No one knows. No one knows what's gonna work. But what I do know is that we are the ones to make it happen, and we're going to discover how to end fluoridation by doing it. So thanks for being in the fight for so long. And you know, I like you and many people here have had to adapt and change and reevaluate and recalibrate over and over again, just to be able to stay in the fight. But it's just wonderful that you're in it and you're with us. I recommend the book because it could take your game to a higher level. It's available on Amazon. You can get the soft copy mailed to you, or the digital copies. The Kindle copy is $9.99, so it should be easy for anyone to grab that and start reading it. It's full of wonderful stories of people all over the world who've been at it for a long time and have a lot of wisdom. And there's a lot of very specific, detailed things that you can do about, for example, getting a website up, you know, very concrete activities that any campaign could use. But mostly it's a broader instruction manual about how to end water fluoridation, taking into account just really the big picture, like today, how to turn passion into action. That's something every campaign needs to know how to do. In fact, I could say I would be willing to estimate that, you know, dozens of local grassroots campaigns have stalled out or failed altogether for not being able to convert that passion into coordinated action. That people have very different ideas about how things should be done and then have a hard time working together because they have different estimations. But once you keep yourselves committed to understanding what is the outcome, what are the assets and behaviors, it gets people on the same page, gets people being more honest about what can be accomplished in the near term. And if there are gaps in your assets or if there are gaps in your behaviors, you can see them, everyone can see them, and we can all be responsible for filling those gaps and then getting those outcomes accomplished together. So today has been a wonderful day. I appreciate everyone coming. I hope that you'll come back again. Mark on your calendar. Next month, we will be following the book 12 Steps and the 12 steps from the book. And so we'll be discussing the credibility war, right? It's a very unique part of our particular civil engagement. Ending water fluoridation means that we have to deal with credibility constantly. And so we'll spend a whole hour and a half talking about how to increase your credibility, how to protect your credibility, how to improve your credibility. And I guess by extension, how to destroy the credibility of our opponents when possible, when we can. So look forward to that, and be in communication between now and then if you like. And for now, the time being, I just wish you all the best. Best of luck. Wonderful to be arm in arm with you all. God bless you all. See you later. See you next time.